Ever since it was stated that Nintendo would be the ones to determine the roster for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC fighters, we assumed that it meant that they would only pick characters from their own franchises and not third-party ones. And then this happened. Yeah, the announcement of Joker from Persona 5 as a DLC fighter was shocking. Not just because he was a third-party character, but because the game he is most famous for is not even on a Nintendo console. At least, not right now. This was mainly due to Super Smash Bros. Director Masahiro Sakurai's love for the Persona franchise, so this could have been more of his decision rather than Nintendo's. Either way, it has been promised that these DLC fighters will be characters that we don't expect. And no, we're not going to talk about the rumored DLC fighter roster going around the interwebs. Leaks are toxic, girls and guys. Don't buy into them.
Despite Joker being a shocking character reveal, he opened a pool of possibilities when it comes to Japanese characters.
Sure, characters like King K. Rool and Dark Samus were created by Western developers, but they are owned by Nintendo and thus count as Japanese and Nintendo characters. So let's say that Smash Bros. Ultimate's DLC fighters will continue the pattern of Japanese characters. This limps down the list of possible fighters a bit, but not by much considering just how many video games and franchises Japan has put out over the last 40 years. That said, we're still open to the idea of Western characters being added into the game. After all, Super Smash Bros. Is no longer a celebration of just Nintendo franchises and games, but video games as a whole, and including game characters from many different parts of the world will only make this statement even more true. We will come out with a separate video on Western characters we would love to see in the game, but for now, here are our top 5 Japanese characters we would like to see inside Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC.
Normally you would think being number 5 on this list means being the least likely, but we're really just getting this character out of the way since we know it's going to happen. Though we would love to be wrong since Nintendo said that these characters would be unexpected. Still, Fire Emblem is a hugely represented franchise in the Super Smash Bros. Series, and we'll be damned if Sakurai doesn't throw in another character into the roster, especially because we have another Fire Emblem game on the way in the form of 3 houses. There is very little we know about the game, with the exception of a few characters like Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude. Once we know more about the plot, then we will have a clearer idea about who would be included. More than likely, it's just going to be the main protagonist, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but we still don't know who that is.
One of the protagonists of Fire Emblem 3 Houses would make for a perfect announcement at the Fire Emblem Expo coming in May, and with it, the release date announced of the game itself, even though that might be revealed in a Nintendo Direct preceding it. That said, the DLC announcement would be perfect for that time frame considering it would probably be the second or third character revealed out of the 5. We can just imagine how shocked everyone will be when they see the reveal trailer.
Even though Kingdom Hearts 3 is nowhere to be seen on the Nintendo Switch for the time being, that doesn't mean that Sora's chances for an inclusion in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has become any smaller after the reveal of Joker.
After all, Kingdom Hearts has already been on Nintendo platforms in the past, and who's to say that the game won't be later ported to the Nintendo Switch? Let's be honest, Joker should have been a less likely candidate as the only Nintendo platform he has ever appeared on was on the 3DS through Persona Q2. If he could make it in, then so can Sora.
Let's also not forget that the relationship between Square Enix and Nintendo has been growing much more steadily ever since the Switch was announced, with great hits such as Octopath Traveler, the upcoming port of Dragon Quest XI, and a collection of essential Final Fantasy games being ported over. It wouldn't surprise us if Kingdom Hearts 3 does get announced for the Switch sooner than later. Besides, Sora has so many abilities gathered from other Disney worlds that he can incorporate into Smash battles easily. However, if these moves are related to Disney characters, like the summons, then licensing will be a serious pain. Luckily, there are plenty of original things about Kingdom Hearts, like some of the environments and music tracks. We could easily see Twilight Town become the official Kingdom Hearts stage in Ultimate, as well as a few of the original music tracks that aren't based on Disney films. And who knows? Maybe Sora being in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate would mean an announcement for Kingdom Hearts 3 on the Switch is imminent. Capcom has been well represented in Super Smash Bros. Recently, with characters like Mega Man, Ryu, and Ken. But why stop there? Capcom has another big franchise up their sleeve, and it has made quite the comeback as of late. Of course, we are talking about Monster Hunter Resident Evil. Yep, that's right. It's time for the series about zombies created by evil corporations to be included in Smash. Especially now that Resident Evil 4, 0, and the remake of 1 are coming to the Switch. That and Resident Evil 7 is on the Switch. Kind of.
But the question is, which character has earned the right to be a Smash Bros. Fighter? Chris Redfield? Jill Valentine? Alice? No, definitely not. There's no Resident Evil character more iconic than Leon Kennedy, especially now that the remake of Resident Evil 2 is coming out very soon. Unfortunately, not on the Switch. However, he is the main character in multiple Resident Evil games, including 4, which many consider to be the best in the series. Not only that, but it originally came out as an exclusive for the Nintendo GameCube. The more we think about it, the more Leon for Smash just makes sense. And if there's any particular Resident Evil game that should be represented in Smash Ultimate, that will say stage and soundtrack, then it has to be the 4th one, because of its reputation, as well as being originally first on the GameCube, then on the Wii, and soon on the Nintendo Switch. The stage could be the horrifying Spanish island the game is set in, and it could include stage hazards like Del Lago or El Gigante. Gosh, the more we talk about this, the more we want Leon to be a fighter. Either that, or Capcom could embrace the memes and just throw in Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
Don't let your memes be dreams. Now, we said at the beginning that we wouldn't be covering any leaks regarding the Smash Bros. DLC, but just for a brief minute for this candidate, we are going to talk a little bit about a data mine that occurred recently that doesn't really prove anything, but has led to countless speculation. You see, there was a line of code found with the name Brave. What the hell does that mean? Well, Brave translated to Japanese is Yusha, which is the name of the hero class in the Japanese version of the Dragon Quest games. Obviously, the protagonists in the Dragon Quest games don't technically have names, but supposedly the character in question for a DLC fighter is Erdrick, the legendary hero of the entire series and the playable character in Dragon Quest III. Like Robin and Corrin, Erdrick could have an alternate costume that also changes their gender, since you could also change their gender in their respective game. If Erdrick or any other Dragon Quest character like the hero made it into Smash, this would be another example of Square Enix's growing relationship with Nintendo, as well as classic game representation in Smash. We already have classic game reps like Rob, Mr. Game & Watch, Duck Hunt, and Simon Belmont, so Erdrick being in there would only add to this collection.
Let's also not forget that Dragon Quest is making a huge comeback to the West this year. For the longest time, the main series titles have only been released in Japan, but the latest game, Dragon Quest XI, has been released worldwide. Even then, this was the very first game announced for the Switch, back when it was called the NX. Now we know it will be coming to the Switch this year in the form of Dragon Quest XI-S. Us Western countries might have to wait a bit longer for the Switch port compared to Japanese Switch owners, especially if it comes out near the release of Dragon Quest XI-S. Our top pick for this list is one that makes the most sense. Matter of fact, it just makes too much sense when you consider the relationship between Bandai Namco and Nintendo. As we know, Bandai Namco assisted with the development of Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, 3DS, and most recently Ultimate. This partnership resulted in the inclusion of the iconic Pac-Man, as well as the worst stage in Smash history. But what if we told you that Nintendo gave one of their characters to Bandai Namco as a guest fighter in one of their games 12 years prior to Smash 4? And that's exactly why a Soul Calibur character should be in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
But which one? There are so many. Of course, you'd have to pick one of the iconic ones, and we narrowed it down to Siegfried. Out of all the characters, he's probably the most recognizable one. Well, except for Ivy, of course. With layers upon layers of armor and a big-ass sword, he is sure to kick some serious ass on the battlefield. With as many years of engaging in one-on-one battles, it would be quite the adjustment having to fight against 3, 4, or even 7 opponents. Of course, the elephant in the room is that Soul Calibur hasn't been on a Nintendo system since 2. Sure, there was that Wii spin-off, but who cares about that? Soul Calibur 6 being the latest release has yet to see a port on the Nintendo Switch. If Siegfried were to be in Smash, everyone would be asking, where to Switch port at? Sakurai could avoid this by designing the character and stage around Soul Calibur 2. I know Link would feel right at home with this setup. When Conrad and I were talking about potential DLC fighters for Smash Ultimate, a Soul Calibur character just made sense. We originally thought Mitsurugi would make the most sense, but then we decided to choose someone more iconic like Siegfried. This was after I talked with some of my Soul Calibur friends who actually play the game. And then we decided that Siegfried is gonna be the one if there's any Soul Calibur character. I mean, just look at him. Look at that armor. Look at that big-ass sword. Cloud, you better watch out.
But those are just 5 Japanese game characters that we would love to see inside Super Smash Bros. Ultimate as DLC. Do you have any other preferences? Then make sure to leave it in the comment section down below. Also, we'll be making a special episode regarding Western characters in the next episode.
If you liked this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button, and if you're new, subscribe and hit that notification bell to know when we upload another video about Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, as well as on the Nintendo Switch.
We'd also like to give a special shout out to our patrons, including royal producer Kenyatta Ali, for all their contributions to the realm. Visit patreon.com/commonrealm to find out how you can join the ranks in exchange for some awesome perks. That's all for now, girls and guys, so we will see you next time on the Commonwealth Realm.